Thank you. So if you don't mind, share with us topics that are on your mind. What's heavy on your heart or on your mind? What topics you'd like me to cover today?
Synchronicity.
You know, I was just thinking that. Synchronicity. Is that it? Well, okay. Okay. Courage.
Perception.
What was that?
Perception.
Rebuilding trust.
Okay, that's good. Thanks. Okay. Synchronicity and belonging, courage, frequency, perception, rebuilding trust. That's to name most of them. I repeat them so that, I heard you, but also the folks online know the direction of what we might be going into today. Even the word frequency, we have these fancy words we use in the spiritual communities, vibration, and some people are like, well, you just raise your vibration and you'll have more income and all these fancy words. What is frequency? It's kind of the same as vibration. But vibration basically means in the moment, the frequency, the vibration of your consciousness. So you can't have someone else's frequency. You can't vibrate to someone else's frequency, for that matter. It's yours. So there's the body vibration, but that's the physical vibration. And that comes from the consciousness. So your body reflects your consciousness, but then that does not mean you should walk around looking at people going, wow, you got a low consciousness because, you're looking sickly or something. It's not about that. Sometimes you can have high consciousness and still manifest a broken looking body because that's your way of getting rid of stuff, being done with certain things in your life. Maybe it's your karma being burned off or whatever. So just let it be, relax, not overthink these things. But generally speaking, it's not a magic trick where you just sit and say, today I think I'm going to raise my frequency. And diet can't do it. These things can help. Less toxic food can make it a little easier for your body to adjust to a higher frequency. But it's not just in a second that this happens. Your frequency changes based on the majority of your thoughts, not just the ones you're having right now. Your aura is a color that is sometimes reflecting what you're feeling right now instantaneously, but it also maintains in general, a certain color that is what you majoritarily, time-wise, think about by majority. Does that make sense? So your frequency isn't just a whim, and nor is the colors of the aura, but it's partly true that a momentary feeling can adjust the aura. A momentary feeling can adjust the vibration, but it's only a momentary shift in vibration. What are you mostly thinking about? What are you mostly holding in your consciousness? Whatever that is, it has a keynote to it. It could be bing, it could be bong, it can be bing bong, It's just whatever your mind is about, then it starts to play a role in the aura, your auric field. Not just the colors, the healthiness of your aura. Your etheric double, what the Bible calls the armor of the Lord, this energetic healthiness around you, which is psychologically referred to as boundaries. Okay? Your psychological boundaries affect your aura, but just because you went to a boundary workshop doesn't mean your aura goes boom, and it's just like, yeah, man, totally intact. These things are reflecting a little bit of your momentary thoughts, feelings, etc., but majority is what you majority think about. The greatest long-term quantity of what you're about. If I've done long-term addiction, it's going to have an effect on my aura. Just because I hear this, go to an aura clearer, doesn't mean they take away all the effects of my addictions, but it helps. So the little bits help. And you can say, I'm changing my frequency. I went to a workshop, and sound healing does that. These things have an effect, but not permanently fixing everything you've ever done. It has to become a way of life. Sound healing as a way of life. Toning, literally toning, sound frequency from yourself, from God, and so on. These have an effect. The earth can have an area that is destroyed because of darkness and war. You don't just typically walk there one time and say, well, I decided, I went out to Gettysburg or Auschwitz, and I bing, and I chanted for 10 seconds, and I think it's all cleared now. I don't think that's going to work. I don't mean to be a naysayer, but I don't think it's going to work. But do that often enough, powerfully enough, and it changes it. Your aura, those locations that have some darkness to them, we can change those things. People that do light work and grid work on the planet, they go to these places, and some of them just actually, think that just being there does something. It just doesn't work that way. You have to become the change you want to see in the world. So if you want to do grid work, you don't just go out and ring a bell. You better bring something. I mean, it's nice if you don't have anything to bring, and you say, you know what, today I don't have anything to bring, man. I'm going to go and ask the mother to. And you go up in the red rocks, and you go in the forest, and you go in the creek, and soak it in. Take a day off from light work and rejuvenate. I think that's valid, and it's healthy, and it's good, and it's true, and it's effective. Generally speaking, though, when you do grid work on this planet, you have to bring something. It's a knowingness. You bring it to that site, you anchor into your consciousness and or group, you build it up, you build it up, you build it up, you build it up, and then boom, you infuse it into the earth. And she soaks it up, and then she'll distribute it just like meridians do in the body. She'll channel it here and channel it there. Thank you for channeling that over here in, Tallahassee. I think I'm going to soak that energy up, and we could use a little of that frequency, that specific vibration. We could use a little of this over there and over there. She'll figure out what to do with it. You could also consciously say, we're downloading it. We really want this to become healing for all the state that we live in, the region, the town we live in, or whatever else. You can put intention to it. But these ideas about frequency and people not understanding, there's no more sacred or holy space on the planet than you. There is no location that's holier than your soul, your altar right here in your heart. But you've got to be willing to go to this place and do what? Oh, my heart. Well, who's my heart? Whose heart is it? What heart are you talking about? What I would do is say, when I'm talking about my heart and bringing my heart and soul to create sacredness wherever I go, I don't do it of me. I want to open my heart and get it from up here. Let God, the upper three chakras, the presence of God in heaven, let that download into my heart. Breathe it in, and then download it where I am. Into a hug. Into a smile. See, humans. Anyway. Sorry. Humans, they just live off such a shallow way of life. Once upon a time, you couldn't have had a meal without thinking about the sacredness of the moment. Thank you. Now it's like, whatever, consumptuousness. Everything's done, from sex to drugs and rock and roll, everything done without God. And really to raise frequency, bring God in, and I promise you it's adjusting your frequency. Live, walk in the light, and the light will have an effect. When you talk about rebuilding trust, that's another one. But my wounded heart, I don't know how to trust anymore. That's normal. It's called post-trauma. Whether it's a parent that would feign loving you and then pull the rug out from under you, do you know what that does to a person? Now I don't know where to trust and how to trust. I mean, it's pure and simple. You're not wrong for that, but it is post-trauma. Somebody that would, do that to an animal for that matter. Pretend to be nice and then smack the animal. Pretty soon, the animal can't approach anybody. It walks its tail tucked. It never knows what to do. Well, that's what we do. We have a certain amount of post-trauma. So how do you rebuild trust? Notice the word rebuild, not snap your fingers and make it happen. Rebuild, but it's a day at a time. If I have to rebuild trust, it's because I need to enter a 12-step program from trauma, which means a day at a time. Now, how do I do that? First, God. You know, God, I can see where I've put trust in broken humans. And I realize that's kind of a poor investment. What was I thinking? My mom's an addict, but she's going to give me love, and then she didn't. What's the surprise? Now, don't get me wrong. I know when you're 3 and 5, you don't know why this is happening, so it hurts. I get that. But at some point, when you're old enough to say, I'm looking for God and myself to parent me. I'm looking for a new life. Stop asking broken people for your new life. Unlike my mom and dad who did not show me love, that guy I met in the bar last night seems like he's going to pull through for me. He seems unselfish. He shared his drink with me. Strangely, afterwards, I passed out and woke up somewhere else. And my counselor said that was abusive, so now I don't know who to trust. Really? So, so at the end of the day, don't trust untrustworthy people. Don't have faith in things that are unhealthy. It just doesn't make sense. I understand your attempt. Well, that's all I knew. Okay, fine. But wouldn't you like to affirm that you now know better? Can't you affirm that you now don't jump in and hurt yourself in some way? You can have a relationship start and click from first day. You don't have to know people 5 years to know that they're trustworthy. But generally, if you have a pattern of unhealthy decision making, you might want to slow it down because there's long-term and short-term traumas as well as healings, changes. So if you're very, very raw, you got to take some more time and rebuild. And one of the ways to do that is I got to talk about integrating for a moment. In a moment I will. But this idea of trusting again. Well, wait. Start with. I think I'll sit next to that gender that I get triggered by, and afterwards, when I leave, I can sit in the car and say, I sat next to one of those. Men, women, whatever it is, and they didn't cause me any harm. That might sound elementary, not to a traumatized person. That person needs to say, and I'm still okay. And breathe that in. It sounds like, well, come on, that's a silly example. No. Depending on how traumatized, you have to start somewhere. And with an animal, for example, you don't say that's silly. You know when a dog's been damaged severely, and we're talking about an animal because of its primal brain, and we also have a primal brain. It needs reprogrammed. You have to tell that primal brain that's looking for A, B's, and C's of life, and you have to tell it, did you notice that didn't happen today? Yes. There, it's okay. Don't pant. It's probably not a good idea around strangers. But anyway, calm it down. And one of you asked about perception. This is all connected. You see, my perception of things comes from my wounds. So when I'm looking at the world, remember, the Christ me is really hidden way deep inside. The Christ spark, the divine spark, my I am presence, hidden way deep inside. Around that is the ego and all kinds of wounds and masks. So when I see you, hey, how's it going? When I look in the mirror, how's it going? What I'm showing you is my survivor. Not my Christ self, my survivor. Well, do we ever get to the Christ self? Not without doing this. Turn around, go this way, and work on all those pieces that are in the way of you seeing the Christ. Look in the mirror, you're not seeing the Christ. You're seeing masks and layers. Oh, I don't look too bad today. It's a mask. I'm such a great, I get certificates of achievement. They're all masks. They're all things. They're surviving mechanisms to make us feel a little better. The person on the spiritual path knows it's not just about achievements and external things. I have to turn around and look within myself. Like the song, Incense and Peppermints and Strawberry Wine. Turn on, turn in, turn your eyes around. Look at yourself. Look at yourself. That's the lyrics, This is back when music was good. So, turn around, look at yourself. What a great line, right? Can you imagine being on stage and being able to say things like this, like a chant? Everybody's sitting there, yes, turn on, turn in, turn your eyes around and look at yourself. What a great chant. Yes, let's get it. Turn and look. But when you see yourself, Jesus says in the Gospel of Thomas, he who searches will find and become disturbed. That's weird. Like, Jesus, could you try a little happier statement, like, hey, look within, and no. He says, look, he who searches will find, but you will become disturbed because he's saying, I'm warning you. You're going to find parts of yourself you'd rather not see, so you're going to want to turn and go the other way, which is idolatry, it's transference, it's judgment and projection, and we live this way. Everybody lives this way. And if you can just set it aside for a minute, you might have a relationship in there somewhere. I'm going to pretend not to notice your flaws, and we're just going to pretend everything's copacetic, and let's have a relationship. I do. And then you move along, and you wonder why stuff comes up. All it is the stuff you didn't look at when you didn't turn and look within. So we want to be able to say to people, I can't promise you perfection, but I can promise you a commitment to look at myself. And that's actually healthier than someone going, I promise I will never have flaws. I mean, seriously. So it's like, no, let's commit to healthiness. I'm going to do my best not to be projecting transference or projection, positives or negatives onto you. But what I see triggers in you, I will look at myself. That's fine. Doesn't mean it's always all about me, the problems. There might be things I'm going to ask you to adjust, but we'll try. But the positives too. God, you make me feel so beautiful. I would never be able to feel so positive if it weren't, behind every man, a good man is there's a woman, I don't need anybody. I've got it, but thank you for being in my life anyway. You take away the neediness and just have the appreciation of each other's presence. It's taking all this weird stuff, all the entanglements, and just relaxing and being in each other's presence. That's pretty beautiful if you think about it. That's, it's a description of unconditional love. So as I heal, I've got to turn and be able to look at myself. I got to look at my stuff, especially recurring things. Feelings of loneliness or abandonment. Why do I keep getting betrayed if that's the pattern? Why does I just don't seem to manifest relationship if that's the pattern? Being able to look at what the patterns are. And then behind the patterns are core beliefs. Which is, even though I can name 20 things that have gone wrong this week, I can name 100 that have gone wrong this year and 1,000 that have gone wrong in the last 10 years. The average person could do that. What's interesting is behind all these events or incidents in our lives, behind them all are actually a far less number of patterns. And behind the patterns, far less number of core issues. So I could name 1,000, but believe it or not, there's only 1 or 2 core issues I have creating the 1,000. All I have to do is have a little bit of, I just don't believe I deserve. And that becomes patterns of betrayal, distrust, abuse. One thing in me. That's all I need. One thing. And that's, the core beliefs. That's what I described earlier, the keynote. So I walk the planet and I'm a survivor and I feel like I'm okay and I make it look like I'm okay and I smile and, I'm a survivor. And yeah, wounds come up once in a while, but everybody's got them, so it's okay. Cover it up, mask it over with an addiction of some kind. We all have these things. But when we're healing, we go from naming the many issues to the core pattern of it, the core issue rather, the core belief, because it's always going to come down to our beliefs. Now you say, no, but I believe I am worthy and I'm a really good person. No, that's a certain level, shallow level of belief. Deep in the core of our heart. The word core is, the word heart and core come from their same origins. But in our core, in our heart and soul, we have beliefs that we don't want to really see, which is why Jesus says, search and you will become disturbed. It's because you're going to see parts of yourself that are scary, disturbing, for various reasons. I mean, if I have 10 reasons to dislike certain people on this planet, and I look within and find my core issue, one of the things that disturbs me is I can no longer blame those 10 people. They might still be not nice people, but the core is me. I'm the one sitting there going, calling all hurtful people, calling all hurtful people. I'm here and vulnerable, and they're like, and they start coming through. Even if they're rude people, why did they pick you? There's 8 billion people. Why did they pick you? Because there's this commonality. Hey, we heard you like blues. We have background in blues, so I'd like to join your band. Oh, great. Because you have similar something or other lessons for each other. But that doesn't mean that's the direction you ultimately wanted to go. At some point, you wanted to shift from blues to gospel and from gospel to inspired world music, and you grow in consciousness. To understand anything, including the word, let's say, channeling, every concept, spirituality is not just like a shallow thing. There's a difference between, let's say, I believe in God. If I asked an audience like this, do you believe in God? Just pretty much, most everybody's going to, of course. But no, there's believe in God, and there's be and live as God. Believe. Be and live. Don't just believe superstitiously in God. Be and live as God. Can you pull that off? Well, no, I'm not quite there yet. I'm still in the barely believing in anything. So it's okay for somebody to look to the heavens, and dear God, I don't know what you're looking at when you look up at God, dear, as though God's like there. But what if it was over there? What if the people on that side of the planet are praying? Do they still have to look left because you're looking up? It's a little weird. There isn't God sitting there somewhere, but it's a symbol. Your body, you compulsively look up because you know. You that's looking is the human here who's looking at the heavens here. So even though your eyes and head tilt to look, it's a compulsion coming from look within right here. A Buddhist concept, that the divine is right here. And Jesus saying the kingdom of heaven is with you, in you. It's all true. So, but we go from a point of just believing. Now remember, you can not believe, you can then believe, third stage, be and live. To be and live, you have to know. You kind of move past theory and you move past superstitious ways of worshiping. Instead, I give thanks, I am. I'm not talking about an arrogance here. I'm talking about humility. I am. Not, please help me fix this in my life. It's learning to call in that presence. How could that problem be there if I call in the presence of God? Is that making sense? So, picturing a pyramid, I often use that as a metaphor, but the bottom row of a pyramid, if we were talking about channeling, every human being channels something, but generally it's their brokenness. So on the bottom step of a pyramid, it's everybody with their talents, but their talents, the ones you have nurtured. It doesn't have anything to do with God yet. I'm talking about you. There's people that are flashy guitarists that have nothing to do with inspiration. All they do is move the fingers faster, and people are like, wow. You could be witty. You could be an expert in cleaning, design, architecture, landscape, whatever it is. But it's still coming from this level. Broken people. You are amazing at architecture, and you don't realize it's actually a perfectionist in me because I'm broken, and perfectionism is my compensatory talent. So now all of a sudden the architecture, see, you can eat without God, you can build without God, you can play guitar without God, you can sing without God, you can chant. Even chanting spiritual things could be done without God. Jesus references that with, don't pray repetitious prayer that are just empty. Put your consciousness into what you're doing. Show up. And what he means by that is there's that one layer where it's just channeling from human broken self. When you get above that, you start channeling something higher. Your higher self, perhaps. Maybe it's going to evolve into light beings. Maybe it's going to be ascended masters. Maybe it's going to be angels. But you're starting to channel higher and higher. But you're going up the pyramid. As you go up the pyramid, the many dysfunctional things I could channel become lesser, 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 because they're higher frequency, and there's less of these higher frequencies of beings that I can access, because I'm a human and I've gone through too much trauma, and I don't let myself just zip all the way to the capstone, which is God. So I'm learning, but there's stages. It's not just what frequency and what higher beings you channeled. It's not just that. You have to be the frequency. Now watch this, because if I try to channel things that are a little beyond me, there are beings that love taking advantage of those kinds of channels. And they become unpredictable, squirrely, and they mess with people. Because you're so into channeling anything, because it'll look cool. And besides, I heard some channels have made millions of dollars doing what they do. Yeah, and they're crazy now. They lost their minds because they weren't authentic. They were channeling, but they weren't asking for God's help. They were channeling anything that came through. That doesn't make any sense. It's like dialing 1-800-666-HELL. You know? Hi, anybody there? Oh, yeah. Yeah. You just dial a street corner in Los Angeles and ask for spiritual advice. Whoever answered, you might get a mystic and you might not. How do you know? Because you're the one who dialed. What were you looking for? Only God, it will assure that the other person that picks up the other phone line, is good. When you're careless, then that's what happens. But am I talking about just channeling, or are we back to romance again? You set your intention. I want somebody now. Anybody will do. And so it is. I've got this friend of mine. He just got out of prison, and, he might be going back tomorrow, but you could have a great night. Is that your criteria? And we're not talking about if somebody's in prison, they're bad and good. It's just an example. So what do you do with this? You've got to know who you are. You've got to have this integrated. So if you're going to be a channel and you want to channel higher dimensional beings, this is what happens in part. I'm ready. I want to channel fifth dimensional beings. The universe says, okay, great. The universe being the Holy Spirit and the Divine Mother that manifests everything outside for us to see, including lessons. The mother's going to say, oh, great, honey. Good. That's great. Fifth dimensional. Okay, are you there? Any part of you that isn't there is going to go through fire to get you there. Watch what you ask for. Be careful. I want only the highest. Immediately the universe creates a tension between you and that thing you say you want. And all of your lessons and tests are going to pull you in that direction. So be careful. Ask for healthy and start living healthy. And then you're attuned to the thing you're going to. Ask for higher frequency, but get yourself into higher frequency. Not one night, but that has to be where you're going. You see? You name something. When you name something, there's a politician that some people like and don't like, but he's always making these grandiose statements. The most amazing and the best ever. And that's fine. Just make sure you live it. Because everybody's watching. This will be the greatest year ever. Everybody's sitting there measuring, and then they call you a liar when it didn't happen. Well, the same thing happens when you're channeling. Yes, I'm channeling the highest beings possible. Really? And you're still an addict, and you still have dysfunctional relationships. I'm not telling you you're bad as a person. But if you're going to start talking about channeling a certain level, you're pulled to be tested at that level. It's really interesting the way this works. But more people should know this, because a lot of people that were popular channels when channeling was at its peak popularity in the 90s, most of them did not leave the 90s intact mentally. A lot of them had nervous breakdowns, really severe mental issues, or their lives just fell apart. And they're like, I don't understand. I was channeling whatever it was. Mary, Michael, whomever, Joseph and all the other carpenters, including Karen and her brother. So, these people are channeling all these beings, and they were good. Some of them were actually good, but they didn't have a criteria. They didn't say, only as guided by the Holy Spirit. It became an anything goes. And you know why? Because people were willing to pay for anything goes. I've had channels walk up to me and say, in confidence and in sessions and so forth, where they say, when I'm paid, these are the biggest ones, of the time. When I'm paid and I go up there, if it's not happening, I have to fake it. Well, what else are they going to do? Hold on. Nope, not happening. No free funds. Sorry. What are you going to do? I understand the position they're in. But guess what? There was one solution they hadn't considered. Become the thing you're channeling. That's what you do. Become the thing you're channeling. Be and live, believe. Be and live as God. If you're channeling the archangels or whatever, be and live at that level of consciousness. And you can come up there and one day it could literally be they swoop in and come through you, but it doesn't matter if they don't. I don't stand here and say, okay, hold on, take another minute or two, and they're kind of delayed. I just stand here and do it. But if we go out to eat in an hour, I swear I'm still the same person. Weird, open, I still receive, I still can tell somebody needs a prayer that's in the restaurant. It's still me. It maybe looks a little different. And to some people it'd look like, completely different, but it isn't. I know me and I know it's not completely different. But there could be a certain time, certain moments that's a little more different than others. There's this peace, guys, peace, love, and I stand here and share that. But if one of you went out in the parking lot and was being harassed by someone, physical altercation or whatever, I'm not going to be like, peace, and I'm going to take somebody out. I'm going to go over and restrain somebody. You know what I mean? 3D, you got to deal with this world. But you don't judge this world versus the other, the higher, the spiritual. You try to bring the spiritual into this world to the best of your ability. And if I got into that thing where I'm trying to protect you from somebody harming you, if that were the case, I'm not claiming to be Superman. I'm just saying if I went over and tried to help and I started getting angry at that other person, there's my lesson. I got triggered. I'm still going to restrain them. And while I'm restraining them, I'm going to be like, blah, 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 blah. Inside my mind, I'm going to be praying, God be with me. And when I'm done restraining them, and an hour later, it's still going to be on my mind. Oh yeah, I got a little trigger there. I have work to do. But that's how you know you're integrating this life. It's not that you never commit a wrongdoing. It's just that you bounce back and you clear yourself. You get clear about, I can see the lesson, clear it, give it to God, replace it with love and forgiveness. Not just for the person you restrained, but for the person that reacted to having to restrain somebody. Keep bouncing back. So this pyramid concept, there's God at the top, there's humans that are only channeling their own brokenness, but in between is the majority that get on the spiritual path. They start trying to come from a higher place. But don't pray for them to fix you. Don't just pray for any beings that are not third dimensional to come through you. Remember to become what you're channeling. If I were channeling the angels, you need to see a little bit more of that in my life, or else there's something I'm not doing right. Do you get what I mean by that? If I claim to be channeling the angel of peace, and I sit here and you all pay good money, and the angel of peace is coming through, and I'm bestowing peace to you, and you're like, he blessed me. And people do this in these kinds of groups. And blessings and peace to you. And if for an extra $29.95, you come up and I'll even hug you from the angel of peace. I got hugged by the angel of peace. And people do this. And we could do that. But if I leave and go out to the parking lot, taking a break with a beer and a cigar and angel of peace, I don't even know what that means. I'm not saying it's not possible, because a channel is dissociated from the vessel. Edgar Cayce's the best clairvoyant channel in our lives, in history, maybe shy of Jesus, of course, but maybe shy of Enoch and a couple characters, and that's it. Number one in history. He was a chain smoker. He had issues, and he was a channel of health and healing. The AMA Journal describes him as the grandfather of holistic medicine. He gets that label. He's the, but yet chain smoker. But they didn't know what smoking was about in those days. They didn't know about the toxins in cigarettes. They didn't know about the addictive qualities, and it wasn't processed and all that. But why was he smoking? He was smoking because he was so sensitive, it was affecting his nervous system. So he had to do something. That's just okay to me. Whether that was, he could have been a meat eater grounding himself. I don't condemn him for being a meat eater, if that's what he was. So there's what I would call acceptable levels, Edgar Cayce's readings, they were called unconscious, meaning he's going in and he doesn't know even what he's channeling. But Jesus told Helen, who wrote A Course in Miracles, he was telling about how great Edgar Cayce was. But he said, but Cayce was so afraid, because Cayce was just this dude, like 5th grade education. I mean, he was just a guy from the late 1800s, early 1900s. He didn't have the education. He didn't have anything. And yet something's coming through and he's unlocking the keys to the universe for everybody. It was a bit much for him. But Jesus tells Helen, there's a secret about Cayce. Cayce was so afraid of what was coming through, he was an unconscious channel, which means I don't even know what I'm saying. So I'm not responsible for all this weird spiritual stuff. It was his way of protecting himself. And I get it. That's not a negative. It was just a self-protective thing. Some of you do healing work, and you wear amulets that are like, snapping your neck because they're like, because it's so filled with healing devices to protect yourself from all the wicked energy of humans, and it's like, you're getting a backache because you got this amulet that sends out these frequencies, anti-human toxins, And what I say is you could also just be so loving, you don't need all that. It's fine, smudge and wear it's totally fine. I'm just saying there's another alternative. When you love people, you don't need to protect from them. But that's not here yet, 100% in every one of us yet. But that's the direction we're going. So we have to recognize, I need to become an integrated channel. If I'm dissociated from the channeling, I have to ask, why am I dissociated? I'm channeling all this great stuff. Why don't I apply some of it? I mean, that's how my brain's going to work. I can't, it's one of my anxieties on a cellular, physical, human level. One of my anxieties is constant to talk this and think this and live this and feel this every day, every session, every lecture, every workshop, every book. This is I love it. This is just totally me. But there's still an anxiety about it, because if one thought strays, when you're doing this so much, you kind of hold yourself to another level of responsibility, which is a drag sometimes. Like, could I just, watch a ridiculous movie or whatever? And the inside, no, it's not of the higher realms. It's like, just shush, So I just accept that not everything I do needs to be cosmic. Favorite shows, Green Acres. That's always going to be my favorite. That's always going to be my favorite show throughout all time. It's not going to be, well, there's this one show that's about higher frequency. I don't go on YouTube and I go, Green Acres is the place to be. And I'm totally cool with that. But are you totally cool with your ironies and your idiosyncrasies? You got to become cool with it. And that cool with it means own it, even if it's strange. Own it and practice forgiving yourself for it. And then something really weird happens, which is you start to not be as drawn to it, because you're changing your consciousness, which change your frequency, which changes the things you would draw magnetically to yourself. And you start to see that and think, well, if these things fall away, you won't have anything left. I mean, can I have a little, beer and cigarettes and whatever? You can. Just stop judging it. But what's weird is you end up phasing it out. Some people make themselves not drink. Others enter a different consciousness, and the drinking is no longer attractive to them. I'm just saying there's an easy way versus a hard way of making us do get rid of some of the things in our life. But don't get rid of things so severely that you're judging them. That thing is bad. I'm going to no longer, that's not bad. If that's all you've got, use it. But what's nice is you start becoming the higher frequency. You start becoming, be and live as God. And things just tend to fall away a little more. You know, you're still going to have human stuff now and again. You get a splinter in your finger. How could this happen? I'm divine. Just shut up and get the splinter out. Just shut up and grab some tweezers, okay? I don't understand. You know, there's an old Zen Buddhist story of a master walking with his disciples, you know, and someone shoots an arrow and it strikes him. And he falls and he's dying. His disciples, we're going to go get help. No, wait. I want to know from where the arrow came. Who shot the arrow? Why did they shoot the arrow? In the meantime, he dies. And the moral of the story, I'm, you know, trimming it way down. The moral of the story is don't sit and overanalyze things. Sometimes just take care of the thing at the moment. You know, just let's get a doctor. No, not yet. Now 3 lifetimes later, you're having to meet that person as your wife, you know, who feels like she backstabs you. But no, it's the arrow story happening again. It's just an example. Wives of the world, do not send letters and emails, okay? So think about this. How does that feel to you? You have to become. I don't care if you're a sports coach, a boxing trainer, a musician. I have to become this. You become music. And, you know, like all of a sudden melody and harmony, like it's mastery is what it is. You can talk parenting, but parents that are new parents are often, you know, oh, watch out. Oh, they might fall. Oh, don't let, you know, and you're like trying to create this, wrap them in bubble wrap so that they can't fall, they can't get hurt. Be careful, all the perfect foods. That's nervous parenting. But that's to be expected. You know why? Because you haven't integrated parenting yet. Well, when do you do that? Well, it could be after the 3rd child, but some people get it after the 1st child. And some people have 10 and never got it right. But there's something about the parenting of a new parent that's nervous about, oh, they're crying. What's wrong? What's wrong? And there's a grandparent. And they just, you know, like my grandmother, she just sat there. I couldn't believe it when I had a kid and the kid's crying and I'm trying to figure she just sat there. She didn't need help. She just sat there grinning and on her rocking chair. And I'm like, what's wrong with you, lady? Why aren't you coming to the rescue? I mean, I was thinking that. I'm like, yeah, so she won't stop crying. You know, hint, And I'm thinking, cold-hearted woman. You know, I can't believe, how could you? And it's because I'm thinking and she's knowing. Oh, yeah, that. Yeah, you know, and, oh, yeah, its legs just fell off. And I'm like, ugh. So thinkers, they get nowhere. They just become thunkers, you know. Thinkers don't get anywhere. Thinking means, you like that one? Thinking, listen to this. Thinking means you're doubting. Why are you thinking? Because you must be doubting. So thinkers are confirming that they're already doubters. They're not knowers. It's okay. I'm at the stage of thinker. Okay, fine. I study and I prove. And the people that preach to you, diet, religion, the truth is they don't know. Because when they know, you know, it's just, you know, and there's just this calming thing that happens. The knower, the Gnostic, you know, the knower. It's beautiful. Thinkers are preaching. Did you know you're going to go to hell? No, but you heard that and it scared you. So now you tell everybody because you're scared. What you're really saying, do you know you're going to go to hell because of Jesus and accepting Jesus as your personal Savior? All this stuff. The reason they're yelling it, the reason they go so intense and passionate and fault finding is it's all about compensation. You know, the one that has to strut more because they're compensating for low self-worth. The one that has to show off more, the money in the cars, compensating. It's the same with these people that fight, you know, find fault. You're going to hell and you're going to hell and you're going, okay, wait. What it really means is, I don't know, please help me. I don't know, please help me. That's what they're really saying. Teach only love, for that is what you are. But when I tell you you're going to hell, I do not know. How should we think of those people? They know not what they do. Forgive them. They know not what they do. They're complaining. And they can act like they're proving. Scientists do that. We've proven, you never proved anything. You're just insecure. You think things. You come up with theories that prove yourself correct because you don't know. And the ones that have to prove the most value of biology and the physical world are the most terrified about God. And I really don't like that I can't prove to you that there's a God. That makes me out of work. I'm going to keep proving things that are material so that I validate myself. See, but it's all just strangeness to me. And there's a point where the psychotherapist needs to stop labeling people and the psychiatrist labeling people. Oh, you know what? And you know what they're doing is, I see your turmoil. I start to get triggered because I have unhealed wounds and turmoil. I see your turmoil and I go, hold on. Oh, you're this. Now I don't have to actually deal with you soul to soul level. I labeled you. I pushed you away. That's what labeling does. Fault finding. It pushes them back. Now I'm much safer. It must be terrifying to be a healer, a doctor, a nurse, a therapist, It must be terrifying because there's all these sick people, mentally or physically, around you, and you really don't know. That's why it's called practicing medicine, because you never got it right. You're still practicing. Always making friends. Anyway. So the more they think, the less they know. And that doesn't mean everybody that speaks doesn't know. I'm talking about what's behind all those words. The people that say, you shouldn't eat that because that's, and they've got something about it. What they're doing is they're making diet or food a religion. How do we know? Because they're preaching it. And what are they saying? It doesn't sound the same. Well, the fundamental Christians can say, you're going to go to hell because you don't believe in my religion. Just alter one or so words to people that are into diet and health. You're going to hell you're going to die because you don't eat the way I tell you to eat. That's a religion. I'm condemning you and your diet. I have had people get weird with me about food. Well, why don't you eat this? Why do you back and forth? And and they get so flustered. And they all upset and shaking and they'll throw out something like, well, you're going to die. No. Really? Why? Because I don't eat stinking broccoli or whatever? Guess what? If I eat a stalk of broccoli, I guarantee it's not adding years to my life. This is what determines. I'm done, I'm not done. I'm going to leave and come back more or less. It's all in consciousness. It's not down to that stuff about food. And I know this triggers some people. But bear with me since I'm in the mood here. Bear with me. You go and get people who are meat eaters. And some of you that are so religious about your non-meat, I don't care. I'm not judging. I don't care. Don't eat meat. But condemn other people. You're doing the same as those who tell people they're going to hell because they don't practice your religion. That's what you're doing. And that's fine as long as you learn that that's what you're doing. Your conscience will help you not do that anymore once you start owning you're doing it. Because nobody in the right mind would want to keep doing something that weird. So you're telling people, it's wrong. It's wrong to eat meat. Why? Oh, because they're suffering. Well, it's been proven that plants feel too. So now what do I have to do? Go to broccoli hell because I ate a broccoli or venison hell because I ate venison. Listen, it's all in here. So the Divine Mother is the spirit behind everything. She's behind a dandelion and she's behind a deer. If I consumptuously hate in my life, I'm just consumptuous, I'm carnivorous. Carnivorous is not a meat eater, it's an attitude. I can be a carnivorous vegetarian if I'm eating and hating those other people. So I have a carnivorous mind. And you know what the mother does? Oh, sweetheart, why so angry? And I don't care, you're just eating dandelion cereal, She still says, but such attitude, such rage behind it. And so all she can do is mirror the carnivorous attitude, the anger. Now, It's not about, dear. If you say meat eating is wrong, you actually are declaring that whole races of people are evil. Native Americans, oh, they're evil. How do you know? Well, they ate meat. And you could say, well, that doesn't count. Oh, where do we start drawing the line? Because they had to survive. Where do you start? Now we have conveniences of what's right and wrong. Just relax and understand the divine mother aspect of God reflects in the universe as the universal mother. That same mother aspect of God then enters the world from the divine mother to universal mother to the earth mother. And she is all of those kingdoms, mineral, plant, animal, they're all part of her being. So the Native Americans were right. They didn't kill an animal for game, for joke, for competition. They didn't kill things carnivorously. They looked at it as it's part of me. Now, if I enter, now you might not believe in this. I don't care. But just listen. Do you or don't you believe in things like thoughts create molecular changes in water? Yes or no? Yes. Oh, really? Okay. Then can I not sit down and give thanks for plant or animal and bring a new vibration to that thing? Yes or no? Yes. Yes. Okay. Then let it go, man. The natives were given a prayer to say, people can eat dandelions and not do prayer. It's unholy plant kingdom. You can eat animals with prayer. Don't tell me that I can't change the moment, the frequency. Not only can I do. And when I don't care, everything becomes bioacidic. It becomes dead, lifeless. But you can bring life and recognize I'm joining. When you hug a person, the potential is there to just hug bodies. Oh, hi, nice to see you. Have sex, use people, but you can also join with people. It's in here, consciousness, intention. And you can give thanks to an animal or food in general, and it turns to light. You are the light of God on planet Earth. If you bring light to the things you're doing, you're blessing the things you're doing. And it changes everything. And a little science test that says we see the changes in the molecular structure of water, if that's as deep as you can go, use just that and realize if thoughts can change water, how can it not change how you parent your kids? How can it not change the food you eat? It's okay. Casey was a chain smoker. But you know what? If that's all you've got going wrong and you did the work he did, I think you're doing pretty good, man. You got some pretty good testimonials for you. It's okay to have a little something. A native elder, half jokingly, but half not. He said, when I light up a cigarette, I take the pack. He does like a smudging ceremony just because it's real to him. This is the plant medicine. This is the mother as tobacco. I mean, you can laugh at it perhaps. It's real to him. And you know what's happening? It's real to him. Then it's true. It's okay. And whatever you do, try to bring holy consciousness. Now, I'm not saying you have to know how to. You just ask. I don't know how to bring holy consciousness to this parenting moment because my child did something naughty. What do I do? Just enable their behavior? No. Overly punish? No. I don't know what to do. God, guide me. And Spirit could give you the right words, the right words to do something, to say something that'll change the child, the connection, the behavior. It's not always going to be all my kids have to have the same reactions, the same rules. Believe it or not, each one is a different person. So this one adding a certain word, this one a certain look, or whatever it happens to be. God, I don't know. And you're a guitarist and you're in a band, you don't just be cookie cutter. What do they need in this moment? I'll play what the song needs rather than what I will to it. Channeling, you learn to step into the greater good. It's not what it's the greater good. What is in this moment? People talk about, the Beatles and great and amazing. And All of that is okay. You think they were great musicians, singers, whatever they were, songwriters. Probably the one thing that isn't recognized enough is their tendency to play what was needed in a song rather than flair. Right, Robin? Absolutely. See? A voice from the other side of the room. Okay? You get your $10 after the, for that testimonial. You see? I mean, really, what's needed in the moment? When you're a counselor, stop counseling out of your textbook. What is needed for that person? What's needed as a doctor, a podiatrist, veterinarian? What's needed for the animal? What's needed for the person? You're in a different place. You're learning to integrate. I care so much. Not, I fix animals and people and I get paid. That's linear. Even though you're talented, it's lower rung of the pyramid. There's a line above that rung that changes a lot of things. And you go into, it's not me. Something greater is coming through. It may not be 50th dimension. It could be 4th dimension, 5th dimension, could be angels, could be, I don't care. All I know is I leave it in the hands of the Mother, the Holy Spirit. That's your safety. Of yourself, you are nothing. But with God, you become part of everything. Now, all of a sudden, you know words, the right actions, the right musical notes, or whatever it happens to be. You play from a higher place. But remember the word integration. Be and live as God. Don't just believe in God. Be and live. And where you're not being and living, that's the place you want to look and go, I seem to do this everywhere except in my parenting. Okay, that's where I need to start looking for my lessons. What's that about? Maybe my past wounds and being parented a certain way are leaking into my life. But whatever the topic, be and live. Integrate. You become what you're talking. Oh, I know the Bible forward and backward, and how much are you it? Quote me. You're just going to give me quotes that give me an aneurysm. Quotes don't help me. How does it grow corn? How does it work? Rubber meets the road. How can it help me and change my life? Talk Jesus all you want, religiously. And Jesus and John 15 and Matthew 3. And the person in a religion is reading about, studying, praying to Jesus. The mystic, the Gnostic, they know Jesus. They talk, they commune with Jesus. They're there. Like, I actually believe you're here speaking to me. I'm connected. I call it communing. There's a difference between the doing and the communing. Even meditation can be a doing act. Too much thinking, too much overanalyzing. Being, that's different. That's totally different. Communion with God. And there's no $19.99, to show you the communion with God. Think of God as a divine feeling. Imagine breathing that into, it's free. Oh, then it must not be worth anything. That's how some people think. No, it's free. Think of a divine feeling and breathing that every morning. Start with whatever that mantra is, that word or two. Mantras God's not even apart from us, so it shouldn't be complicated to go back and join with God. It's right here. And if you go, well, I was taught this 85,000 syllable mantra to recite every morning, you sound like an auctioneer. That's doesn't guarantee you're going to find God. I can promise you, in just one breath, fully present, calling in the word inner peace or joy or whatever word you want to use, a godlike feeling, exhale, and so it is, you successfully, for just a second, held the presence of God. The word prayer means to trap, but that sort of has a negative connotation. To capture God. So when I pray, when I do this right, and I think of it as God's presence is entering me with my very breath, inner peace, and so it is. I've succeeded. That's better than hours of blah, 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 blah. Just that, and now try that for 30 seconds with each breath. 1 minute truly spent in the presence of communion is far better than hours and hours of on your knee, bleeding knees, praying, begging, supplicating, meditating, Om Mani Padme, and so on and so on. It's all fine. But communion, And God's going, we could just commune. No, Lord, I got to go through all this complicated stuff. Finger mantras, eye to the forehead, on one foot except on Tuesdays, the other foot's up. And it's way too, and God's just like, you people are hilarious. Come here, check this out. And all the angels swoop in. Look at these people. Whatever you're doing, spinning, sorry. All those things. God's like, these people are hilarious. Jesus has to go, forgive them, they know not what they do. Cuckoo, cuckoo. So they get a good laugh. And by the way, the team was telling me last week, somebody was complaining that I laugh at humans. That's never going to change, man. It's just never going to change. Why do you think so low of you? Do you think God thinks this way? No, this is all me. This is my humorous way of imagining how God could humorously see us. In reality, this is so absurd, God wouldn't waste the time observing such things. That will make me sound even worse, wouldn't it? So at the end of the day, please, don't parent from the scared parent, parent from the grandparent, even if it's your first child. Why? How? Well, I'm not even there yet. I just had it. You imagine that you're the wisdom, embodying the wisdom of a grandparent. Act like you've been through some of it, because you have. Other lifetimes, but also the Holy Spirit knows all. So when we surrender our child, our job, or whatever to the Holy Spirit, we're starting to integrate all this. And you start having wisdom. How did I know that? Mechanical things. How did I know that? Biological things, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Any topic. Suddenly you just have this sense of knowing. Instead of eating the right diet to become spiritual, just be spiritual and watch and observe. And you notice, wow, this certain foods are entering and others are leaving. But I'll leave you with this. It's not always easy. These concepts. It's not always easy because as the more spiritual we become, just like a person who's the more recovery, the less you do some of the things and hang around the same people that you used to when you're full addiction, right? It's the same with recovering from planet Earth. The more awake I become, it's really weird because I don't know how to identify. People come over, let's watch TV. Can we watch a video? I have about 10, a few comedy, a few spiritual. It'd be like, I have more cartoons than I have of movies. They're going to be like, wow, this is your selection? Watching TV or whatever the thing might be, to go out to eat. When I was a kid, my mom, Michael, you can't keep cutting out foods, because I would have started with maybe 30 things on this planet that I could eat. And then it became, couple less. Michael, you can't, she said that. You can't keep cutting things out. I don't have anything left to feed you. I'm like, just fire up the pizza oven, Mom. And I got used to that. It's pretty safe. It's hard to ruin a pizza. Bread, cheese, you can't go wrong. If you add butter, it's extra. But my God, so how does she deal with it? She just, okay. And she just dealt with it that way. Let me eat that. They never tried to, well, maybe as a kid, they might have tried to force it, but it wasn't going to work. So you're going to find, there's the dating pool. I became a little healthier. The dating pool lessens when you start having integrity. When you don't bargain your mind or body, it goes way down. There's all kinds of people that take anything they can get. When you go, no, boom. Oh, now I only have 4 people on the planet that are even remotely attractive to me. And they all live in other countries. I'm going to go on a singles cruise with other people that are in the same situation. So slow it down, relax, integrate the presence of God. Be the presence. Don't claim perfection. I'm not talking about ego boasting. I'm talking about that's the direction I'm going, being and living. Don't judge people for what they eat. That's religion. That's overcompensating. It's a thinker, a talker. I want to walk this path. I want to live this inside and out. And you'll be tempted, oops, I slipped and that must make me very unholy. No, forgive yourself and move on. It's going to lessen the interactive pool, so to speak. You don't know what to say to some people because you're You're reeling it in, and you want real conversation. After you get it, you'll find you're so integrated, you can even talk about the weather. But you're like, no, only if it's fifth dimensional. No. You once you get this, before enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. After enlightenment, I still chop wood and carry water. That's the truth. We used to talk about silly, goofy, human, sinful things. And then I became spiritual. All that's gone. What's interesting is when you integrate, you can bounce back to that and have same conversations. Meaning, because you're bridging with people, you're not caught into it. You're now bridging because you're bringing something new. It's interesting. Even in seemingly unholy places, you brought holiness. Because you're no longer interested, susceptible to getting trapped, you're now bringing something that's just integrated. And people will say to you, there's something different about you. There's something different. I don't know what it is. Change the subject, keep it light, I've now become an integrated channel of the I am presence. Now they're like, oh God, I'm sorry I asked. But look at how grateful and how holy it is, and how grateful we can become when we start to integrate these things we used to just talk about and think about and read about. Like, something really beautiful happens. Right? Wow. And you bring that in, and you use it in all your interactions, and call it in when you ever sense that it's not there. And call it in even if you think it's there. Just make it a practice, call in that presence. The presence of God, the Divine Mother, Holy Spirit in you as you. And it'll change what you think, what you do, how you think, and what you're thinking. It changes everything. Everything becomes just kind of frequency-wise, it becomes different. And you're bringing a whole new frequency to the planet. That's being a bridge. That's being I am an embodiment. When Jesus said, when you see me, you see the Father, he was saying this. I'm an integrated being of God's presence. But then he tells us, what I have done, you will do as well. Seriously? Like me? Yes. You can take one lifetime, 18 life, as long as you want. It is inevitable. You're all made as holy reflections of God, and you're going to get back to being holy reflections of God. When you're going to see it? When you're ready enough, when that's what you choose to do. God isn't getting you there. God's already seeing you there. That's why affirmations are what they are. You're affirming what God already knows. Instead of begging, fix me, God's going, what do you mean? You look great. You're a holy child of God. No, you don't understand. Oh, I do. This is what you are. Yeah, but. All the panic stuff. And let go, let God. I am as God created me. Please take a few centering breaths. One of you asked about synchronicity. So sit for a moment and just quietly in your mind, open up to remember this week, this month, any signs of synchronicity. You might call it coincidence, but whatever you want to call it for now, just things like that have happened. Synchronicity. Sync means to put things in sync, to connect them. But whether you're passively thinking coincidence happened here, synchronicity there, just sit with it for a moment. If you had more than one, just be aware of it. Breathe and enter your soul and look at these things. It's not possible for these things to be accidental. But if we think these are just coincidences, that word almost means accidental connectedness to things, happenstance, strange happenings. which implies that we're a victim of it. Does that fit what you're seeing that went on this last week or so? Does it fit to call it just a strange, coincidence? No real meaning. If that fits for you, then own that. But as we walk the spiritual path, those things start to become more meaningful, and the word changes to synchronicity. Do not think synchronicity means you're supposed to go running towards it. Stay in your center. The ego knows if you're turned on by synchronicities to start flooding you with synchronicities to get what it wants from you. Just stay in your center and do this. The more I see synchronicities, which is a profound way of seeing coincidences, the more I see synchronicities, it has one primary meaning. I must be entering a greater in sync with God, with my heart and soul. Why am I seeing synchronicities? Because I am in sync. Oh, thank you, God. That's a great sign. Notice it. And then you'll see more of them. I was singing this song and I turned on the radio and it was on. It's just a coincidence, or what does it mean? Does it mean that you hunt down the singer of the song? Tell them they have to marry you because you had a synchronicity? No. You stay in your center and just say the main meaning behind synchronicities are that they're mirroring that I'm in sync. Can you sit without transference or projection? Just sit and own. It's a sign of how you're doing. Nice, yes. And the more you see, wow, evidence that I'm waking up. It's beautiful. Imagine, with your eyes still closed, imagine looking around the room and validating each other's synchronicities. Validating each other's, like, yes, you were right. Something magical is happening. I thought of a certain thing I'm going through this week and Michael happened to talk about it. That's not just the magic of me tuning in. That's you having a synchronicity. Somehow you're plugged in enough. Place one, if not two hands on your heart and own that. You really are waking up. This really is working. You're allowed to still sit there, because some will. Doubting, thinking, fearing. All the thinking and doubting is just fear. You're afraid of waking up. No, I don't know. I don't believe in synchronicities. That's okay. You're just afraid. That'll last another day or another lifetime. Depends how long you want it to win out. But at some point, something is actually happening. There is a wave of awakening happening in the children of God. And so human beings are experiencing more and more synchronicities. Connectedness. And the reason I would block it is because I do not want to be connected to others. Why? Because I have unhealed hurts. This too shall pass. And don't rush in and try to connect with unhealthy people, because you'll prove your ego was right. A day at a time. A day at a time. Practice forgiveness, but day to day, one step at a time. Trust someone who seems trustworthy, but if it worked, breathe it in and give thanks. You found somebody who didn't betray you. And in closing, imagine that on a 0 to 10 scale, Just imagine that the day-to-day frequency, let's pretend for a moment, is a 6. When you average up days and down days, let's say it's a 6. If I now am giving thanks and integrating everything I heard today's talk, but also my week-long or month-long or year synchronicities, I'm becoming more plugged into something real. And if today I'm owning that, is it possible that in just one day I can go up another number to 7, 8? Whatever that number would be and whatever you can accept, just close by giving thanks. Owning that it's happening, that you have in fact lifted up to another notch or two. I am getting this. Now synchronicity alone takes me to another level. One of you asked about belonging. That word. To be or to long? That is the question. To long for or to be? What? Wait a minute. Breathe in to be whatever you think you longed for. I know the mind will tell us that that doesn't cover us in terms of tangible affection or finance or job, or I get it. But when we truly understand that being will provide the rest, those doubts will be able to fade away. For this and more, we give thanks. And so it is. It's all right. We're going to do our closing prayer. Before we do, we'll take up our collection. Just take your time. Don't get too much going in your head or body. Just stay relaxed and centered. We'll do our closing prayer. Whether you're online or in the room in person, just be as generous as you can be. We want to see our spiritual center not just having the spiritual frequency and sharing and healing and the things we have going on here, conferences and all kinds of beautiful events, sound healings and so on. We want to keep doing that, but we also want to and see the affirming, of prosperity. We want to feel prosperous, and we want to be able to help more and more people with that. We're not ambitious. We're not trying to open up 5 other branches. I don't care about any of that stuff. What I care about is us being as rich, mind, body, and soul as we can be, and being able to bring that to the world, which is in much need of it. So be as generous as you can be. The average donations go in the purple bags, but the green baskets are for any extra donations you can share. Those we use for people of lesser means or sometimes special projects that we're doing. All righty? All right, so our prosperity blessing, it's on your bulletin in front of you, but it's also posted online. Together, please. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Yes. Very good. Can anyone share what they learned or heard today that might have the most impact for you or that might have made a difference in some way or for the people around you? Yes?
The synchronicity of the way you talked about being versus longing, and the introductory song was Let It Be.
Oh, yeah, good one. Yeah, Let It Be was the song we played before service, and then all about the being. That's cool. Good connection. Yes?
Thinking is doubting.
Yeah. Thinking is doubting. And the more you think, the more you're doubting. And the more you're doubting is, honestly, guys, I don't mean this hurtfully, the more hurt you are. So you have to, I'm hurt, so I'm doubting. So now I'm thinking to compensate, to quell my doubts, but it will not. It will not. No amount of thinking will give you a knowing. That comes from choosing to call that in. And if I doubt, my ability, my worthiness. I'm going to think it in all kinds of ways and never actually experience the being of it. Anyone else? Yes.
So I loved the synchronicity of Mike putting forward synchronicity, and then the first words you spoke of were about tuning into your vibration. And I just got off of an Alaskan cruise, not a singles cruise, but an Alaskan cruise, where Abraham Hicks did a workshop, and that's one of the main teachings is about what is your vibration, what are you putting forward, and then in turn, what are you attracting
Yeah.
in your life. So I just love that. There's the first thing
Yeah.
you spoke of.
You were relating to a lot of it, but that frequency piece. What frequency are you holding? Which means what consciousness? Your thoughts are putting stuff into this thing. You have a bowl inside, and thoughts feed the consciousness. Emotions, reactions, lack of forgiveness, unhealed wounds, and bliss and meditation. This is all feeding that bowl. But that bowl will determine, here's your frequency. It's based on what you've put in there. You can't just wish you had a different frequency. Even though some of the teachers will say that. Well, just think a different frequency. Well, it helps. But you can't cure you. You know, you're still there. Get the consciousness steadily in the right direction. The frequency then, you're being it and living it. It steps up to match you. Yes? Instead of be versus, it's be versus longing. If you're being something, you won't long for it. I mean, how is that not on everybody's mind? I need to be this, and then I won't be longing for it. Everybody's longing to be. Yeah, which takes too long. Before we let you go, we'll do our closing prayer. How did you enjoy today? Good. How was the meditation for you? Good. How are you doing? Next to Mark.
Amazing. I've been in your presence 3 times. The same thing happens every time.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah, it's very beautiful. Okay. Yeah. Soak it in. Something's happening. It's really nice. You have a really nice kind of spinning mandala in your heart that's happening. Yeah, let it come, honey. That's a good sound. As deeply as you can, cry it out and sigh it out. Good. And there's gratitude in your sounds. There's nothing you did or said that would make me know that, but yet people care enough to have noticed that something's stirring inside of you. Okay? Just let that unwind. Think in terms of, I don't understand this, but God does. And that's enough. Atta girl. And let it expand. When you breathe in, let it integrate into the fibers of your being. And when you exhale, gratitude, let it expand through your body. Nice. Yeah. Welcome it in. And let your body unwind. Let that part happen. Anybody. When frequency of God enters, it's unwind. Unwind. That's what that's about. Yoga was never designed the way yoga's done today. Dance, light language, dance, movement, they were never, originally it was God. And we let God come through, and that told us what movements we needed to do, what hand mudras, what sounds, because we were having a communion with God, and it was helping us unwind things that were locked, stuck, and so on. So all these movements, and to justify them to today, we call them systems of things. Always the analyzing, and so on. Just allowing. So you let that kind of move. Let it move, let it sound, let it feel, especially the right place is appropriate and all that, of course. Thanks for sharing that with us. The gal behind you, Mark? Yeah, you. Put your right hand in the middle of her shoulder blades, if you don't mind. I know it's weird to call on you without your permission, but my guide said that your guide said that it was okay. Your right hand, just in the middle of her shoulder blades, heart level, that a girl. And I won't tell you what to think or say, the person with her hand on. Just hear that we're all in God, trusting that if you do nothing, it's perfect. If you do everything, we pray. We're going to use you as a vehicle, a vessel to channel, just as long as it's love-oriented. And as you help her heal, you're receiving too. You're being a healer, but you're also being a mother to her. Everyone together, breathing into the concept of divine love, sound. Nice. When you're ready, give thanks in that healing, or keep doing the healing if you feel guided. Everyone else, please stand for our closing prayer. You all right? The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Peace be with you all. Thank you. Be careful not to make too many things into a religion. We'll see you.